let's talk about the concepts of mental illness and mental health. So, traditionally, we've looked at mental illness as a label that's attached to someone's head. So, psychiatrists and psychologists have this great big book, well, it's probably online now, but imagine it's this great big book called the DSM. And in the DSM are all the mental illness labels or diagnoses that can be attached to you. And you need to tick off a certain number of symptoms to get that diagnosis. So let's say you ticked off 6 out of 9, you are now diagnosed with clinical depression. And I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel particularly useful. I think mental health is something we all have to a greater or lesser degree, and we shift back and forth along a continuum of wellness through to compromised wellness, depending on what's happening for us in our lives. So let's try some examples on the whiteboard. So rather than being placed in a box with a label, let's imagine we're shifting along a continuum. So let's use depression as the example. Most people are going to be sitting around here because this is a normal distribution curve, yeah? Over here, there's actually a group in society that has lower than average symptoms of clinical depression, and that's actually kids, because kids don't have our mortgage, right? Over here, it's going to be really, really obvious that someone is suffering from severe clinical depression. Their functioning will be significantly impaired. They may be in hospital. They probably can't go to work. So round about here, yes, tick. I'm 100% confident that person has clinical depression. But as we start shifting back, at what point do I stop having depression? Is it here? I don't know. And probably the best person to judge that is the individual person trying to seek treatment. So you can see why it's not useful having this categorical model. Rather, we shift back and forth depending on what's going on. Let's use me as an example. So let's say at the moment, I'm here. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm okay. I'm probably not ticking off many of the criteria that would meet a diagnosis of depression. And then let's say I get home tonight and my partner is gone. He's left. And he has gone to Queensland with my best friend. So I've still got the dogs and the kids, but he's gone. Now, what is it you think will happen to my mental health? Is it going to tank? Is it going to head to the right really, really fast? Well, it kind of depends whether I wanted him around or not, doesn't it? And this is what happens, you see. We make assumptions about other people's reactions based upon our own worldview and experience and mental filters, and we assume that other people are going to react in exactly the same way as us, and they don't. Okay, so that's the first thing I want you to really take away from this, to try and suspend judgment. Yeah, and try and check those assumptions about what it is you think you know about someone else's experience. Because trust me, as 20 years as a psychologist, honestly, we rarely have any idea what's going on in someone else's life. So yes, of course, my mental health would tank. And I'm going to end up somewhere over here, potentially meeting the criteria for clinical depression. And depending on how things go, I'm going to make a whole heap of bad choices. I'm going to go out and get drunk with my girlfriends. I'm going to swipe right on Tinder lots and go on some horrific dates. I'm going to just sitting eating ice cream out of a tub, okay? And hopefully, after some time, I will slowly get my act together and start doing some adaptive, functional things to recover my well-being. And ideally, over time, I will shift back to being better than I was before. And that is resilience. It's not just bouncing back from adversity, it is incorporating the lessons from adversity and coming out kind of a better version of yourself. So that is resilience. And you can see how all of us at any one point in time are shifting back and forth on this mental health continuum. As a society currently, we know with the COVID-19 epidemic that people are reporting about half. The survey that I read recently, a significant decline in their mental health and well-being. which is entirely a normal reaction to a deeply abnormal circumstance. So collectively as a society, we've all shifted right on this continuum. And so as a society, we're going to have to work out how we shift back again together, because we're kind of in this together. So rather than a categorical label that gets stuck on your head, let's see mental health as something everyone has to a greater or lesser degree, and that we're going to shift back and forth depending on what's happening to us.